But hey guys, um, my name is Chelsea. I will. I haven't made a video on this channel in a very long time. Um, so yeah, here we go. I just wanted to. Okay, so I just wanted to like come on here and just try something real quick. I like doing Bible Yaps. It's basically like where I just be talking about the Bible and stuff. And I don't know. I didn't really prepare too much beforehand with this, so we're gonna see how this goes. But I really wanted to speak on my favorite Bible verse, which is Joshua 1:8. I'll probably put it on the screen over here. But I just want to pray before we read the word and before we get into this. So, dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this day today. I thank you for being such a good God and just being such a gracious Father. I pray that you bless the reading of this word and that we get everything that we need to out of it. I pray that my words reach them and that I say the right thing and that, whoever needs this, it'll reach them and that they'll be blessed by your word and that it all makes sense in the end. And yeah, I thank you for being such a great father. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So yeah, let's get into it. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, my tripod is like acting crazy. But anyways, I have it pulled up on my iPad, but I will probably put it on the screen because I think Chelsea does that thing. I'm going to be reading from the NIV version, and it says, "Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you'll be prosperous and successful." And honestly, that one, like the reason why I chose that as like one of my favorite verses is really like mostly because when I was in high school and we had apologetics, which is like defending the faith, and I went to a Christian high school, so like I really liked that verse. It was like the first verse that we had to like memorize for whatever quiz we had. Even though it was for a quiz, I like remember that being the first verse that I intentionally memorized and broke down word for word. But the version he gave us, which I think was ESV, but I'm reading it NIV because I don't know. I switch between versions because gotta be versatile. Um, but I really feel like it became like when I read it again, um, like recently, I really realized like the weight of the passage, um, and honestly the weight of like this verse in general, and the verses that like kind of hug around it, if that makes sense. Um, Now, if you like go up a verse and go down a verse to verses 7 and 9, it says, "Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey the law and the law my servant Moses gave to you. Do not turn from it to the left, from the, do not turn from it." I can't read today. Okay. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. And then 9 says, Have I not commanded you? Wait, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And honestly, I think like the Lord is trying to tell us, like, I mean, he's constantly reminding us that he's with us and that there's like literally no reason to be afraid or, anxious, because I know like I tend to worry a lot about a lot of things, even this video, this YouTube channel, school, everything. I think that it is God reminding us that we need to be strong and courageous because like he's with us. And if he's for us, if he's with us, then who could be against us? Like if you are with God, if if you're his child, which obviously if you're a Christian, you are a child of God because we were adopted into his family. He will be with you. I'm like forgetting the reference of the verse right now. Like I know verses, but I don't remember the reference sometimes. But it's like, it says in the Bible, I'll probably put it up here. Um, like because of God being who he is, who he says he is, like there's no reason for us to be afraid of man, or like things on this earth. Like there's no reason in a way to be afraid of, like, oh, like what man can harm us. If that makes sense. I feel like I'm messing it up so bad, but I will put it on the screen. Um, but it's like, it's basically the God saying, like, there really isn't a reason for us to be like fearing a lot over certain things or worrying about things. Like even in Matthew 6, it says, he feeds the birds and they don't worry about like what they're going to eat next. And he dresses he dresses the lilies, and like the flowers out there, they just grow. The weeds just grow. The plants grow, and they know they're gonna be fed with photosynthesis. Synthesis. Okay, I'm not a scientist. But all this to say, it's like, you know, if we just trust in God, like truly put our trust in Him, we won't have anything to worry about, like legitimately. Because it's like, okay, for example, I was worried about getting into a class that I needed to get into. Now, if it is in His will, it will happen. But if it wasn't in His will for that to happen for me, if that's not where He wanted me to go, then it wouldn't happen. In that, I had to trust God that, okay, I'm praying that the class, I can get into the class because I know He's God and who He says He is in the Word, which I do have my physical Bible with me, in the Word. If He is the same God that He says He is there, then He can do it. Doesn't mean He will do it, because like whatever you want Him to do, it's not always going to be within His will. So if you really want something like a boyfriend or something, it doesn't mean like, oh, because I want it, He's gonna give it to me. I'm just like, no, girl, that's not how God works. It's not a genie. But if it is for your good, and if it is in His will, it will happen, because God can do anything, and what He does is for your good. And you may not like it all the time. It may not be the thing you want all the time, but it is for your good. And yeah. So with this verse and this passage in general, I'm pretty sure when I read like the beginning of it, it's describing like when Moses died, because obviously he couldn't lead the children of Israel into the promised land because of what he did. I'll probably put it on the screen. Like, I literally can't remember off the top of my head, but like, he said like, you're not going to enter the promised land. So his predecessor Joshua was the one to, this is basically like the beginning of Joshua, which is Joshua 1, which we're reading right now. It is him taking the mantle from where like, not Joseph, where Moses left off, and taking that charge to lead the children of Israel into the promised land. So basically, that's him. And he's like, obviously when you're inheriting something, or say like inheriting like a leadership role, like the thing on the top of my head I can really think of is like, I guess in high school, I led a club for the first time, and like my school didn't really have a lot of clubs going, like active clubs. So I made an art club because I really liked art. So basically I didn't really know, like I didn't have the personality of a person that is like, oh, just a natural leader. So you kind of had to be like molded into that leadership role, if that makes sense. It was the first time I ever did it, and I didn't have anybody to guide me through that process except for my teacher. But it was like, the first time you get to do something in a leadership role, you're gonna be a little bit scared. You're gonna be a little bit anxious about certain things because you've never done it before, and you've seen others do things like in clubs or just in leadership roles, but you don't know if you're capable of doing it, or if you're able to do it as well as them. And it's kind of like imposter syndrome in a way. So that's kind of what I got the vibe, that like to put myself in the perspective of Joshua taking over this big task of leading God's people into the promised land. and taking over from Moses, who literally led them out of Egypt. Shout out to Prince of Egypt. I love that movie. But anyways, like, that is a big shoe to fill. Those are big shoes to fill. Yes. Those are big shoes to fill. So basically, like, he's probably feeling pretty anxious. He's probably feeling like very what's it called? Like afraid and scared. Like, what if I'm not doing this right? What, like, will I do this right? And he even says in to know like this, even it's kind of like in between the lines because it doesn't say that specifically, but it is continuously like throughout this whole entire passage that God keeps on saying to Joshua and to his people, like, be strong and courageous, be strong and courageous. If I read 5 and 6, which is like right above where I was reading previously, it says, no one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. So basically, like, God is telling it from the jump. Like, before we even get to my favorite verse, he's like, yo, I am with you. I was with Moses, and I am with you because I chose you to take over from your boy. I don't know why I said that. Anyways, because this is a promise that he gave, to Moses, to his people, that this is the promised land. So no matter who laid you in there, it will happen because it is in God's will. And he's just encouraging Joshua in taking over this task, which is a very important task to lead these people into Israel, not into Israel, into the promised land. And he's just encouraging him. He's giving encouragement in the fact that he is with him. And if I read down to verse 18, hold on, it took me a minute. If I read down to verse 18, it says, whoever rebels against your word does not obey it. Whatever you may command them will be put to death. Only be strong and courageous. And that's the last verse of the actual chapter. This is actually like the people of Israel, they're like reinstilling the confidence that, we're gonna follow you because, Moses, he tried to lead us into the promised land, but you were his predecessor. We believe in you. We also believe in the God that we serve. So be strong and courageous. It's like continuously like be strong and courageous, be strong and courageous. And even though, in the modern day, we are not the children of Israel, we're not going into the promised land, but there may be different situations that might be the promised land. Like maybe, it's like, you're overtaking you're stepping into a ministry role, or you're stepping into a new job, or okay, Alexa's weird. You're stepping into like a new circumstance, whatever it may be, and God has promised that for you, but you don't see it yet. You don't see the vision because you don't see it, and you're kind of like, okay, I need to trust you, God, but I'm like feeling a little anxious. I feel like we can apply this verse to our lives in the way that God is just reminding Joshua, but he's also reminding us that, to trust him. And in that trust, do not be afraid. Do not be fearful. Be strong and courageous. And it's like, yeah, we can have our fears, but it says like, cast all your cares onto the Lord, or cast all your anxieties. It depends on what version. I know it that way. I would make some versions up. Low-key, but it is saying the same word. The Lord is telling us to cast all of our cares onto him. And when you cast those cares onto him, it's like when you're like throwing it at his feet. Okay, that feels a little violent. But like, in Christianese terms, like we're laying it at his feet, or we're laying it at the altar. And when you lay it there, you don't pick it back up. You leave it there with the Lord so he can care and deal with that, because he is the Lord and he knows how to care for you. So let him do that. And in that, whatever circumstance it may be, we must be strong and courageous. And the way we can be strong and courageous is because our God is strong and courageous and a trustworthy God. And he's all-knowing, and he's trustworthy to lead us in the right direction. So yeah. And back to like verse 8 where we started, I think like the ultimate reason is like really like, even it says in verse 8, keep this book of the law always on your lips, meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you'll be prosperous and successful. So even it says like around this verse to be strong and courageous, because Joshua was feeling a little anxious. I feel like even in these circumstances when you're afraid, like there's always going to be a Bible verse, there's always going to be a word in, you know, the word that will encourage you and help you and apply to your situation, wherever it may be, like literally any situation. So if we keep the word on our lips and we meditate on it, when you meditate on something, I'm not talking about like yoga and stuff, but like they focus something like deeply. I'll probably put the definition up here. But when you meditate on something, you think about it deeply. When you spend like deep focus and deep concentration on it. So we're to meditate on the word day and night, meaning day and night, meaning like constantly, continuously. Because if we do so, we'll be careful to do everything that's written in it, being that we're obeying God's commands and we're obeying the word. We're not just, you know, reading the word and not doing it. It says in, I think it's James. I'll correct myself if I'm wrong, but like, you know, we must be doers of the word and not like not just readers, but we must also be doers of the word. And faith without works is dead. So if we have trust in the Lord, if we believe to be him as a strong and courageous God, so then we could also be strong and courageous, we must act upon that courageousness, that strength. Yes, I think those are the right words. So in order to do that, we must be careful to do everything that's written in it. We must obey and live by the word. So if it's always on our lips and we meditate on it, we will be careful to do everything that's written in it, because we brought in remembrance in any circumstance when we're not doing something that is, you know, according to the word. And if we're not, and we're put in a situation, like if we're being like anxious about a situation, we'll remember this passage, that to be strong and courageous, to not be afraid, because God is with us. And then it says in the last part of the verse, then you'll be prosperous and successful. And in other versions it says like, then you will have good success. Not just regular success, good success. Okay. So I think this verse is just very loaded, and that's why like I get so much out of it, because it reminds me to keep the word in my heart, so I remember it, so that in any situation that I'm going through, it'll be brought in remembrance, and then I will be encouraged in that. I'll remember that, you know, God is who he says God is who he says he is, and that he's a good God. So yeah, I think that's ultimately like why that is my favorite verse. And honestly, it might just be my favorite passage because I worry a lot. It's either this or Matthew 6 were like two of my favorite passages. So I hope that word encouraged you. And yeah, like, I don't know, I'm trying this out. Like, if it reaches one person, I'll be happy. I don't really have like official intro or outros, so, you know, if I continue to do this, give me suggestions. Yeah, but yeah.